to say something. Lightweight, step it aside when we coming. Feel it in your chest, the syllables get pumping. People on the street get panic and start running. Words on loose leaf sheet, complete coming. I jump on my mind, I summon the rhyme, I'm dumping. Healing the blind, I promise to let the sun in. Sick of the dark ways, we march to the drumming. Jump when they tell us if they want to see jumping. Dad, I want to see some fist pumping. Lift something, take back what's yours. Say something that you know they might attack you for. Cause I'm sick of being treated like I have before. Like a stupid standing for what I'm standing for. Like this war's really just a different brand of war. Like it doesn't cater to rich and offensive.
All right, guys, welcome to Wide Awake Radio. I'm your host, Charlie McGrath. It's the 17th of February. Is it? Is that right? 17th of February. Yes, Thursday. And in just a few minutes, I'm going to bring Pete on. Now, I used to announce him as Pete from PD Lumina on YouTube. And in tonight, I just finished, and I'm trying. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, guys. Brett just sent me a message. It lost me, so I don't know what was heard, so I'm just going to start over. Welcome to Wide Awake Radio. I'm Charlie McGrath. My website's wideawakenews.com. He said 10 seconds. All right, well, I've already burned that up. So if you're not listening, if you're in the chat room, hey, how you doing? If you're not in the chat room, go to wideawakenews.com, click on Wide Awake Radio, and it'll take you right into the chat. Now, I'm going to say what I said again about Pete. Coming up in a few minutes, I'm going to bring Pete, formerly of PD Lumina. Formerly, I say, that channel hasn't went away. It's still there. But I'll tell you what, guys, I just finished watching his first video he put up on his new channel, which is A Visual Records. That's the name of the channel. I'm trying to drop it into the chat room, but it's not letting me, so I'm going to drop the video into the chat room. I'll tell you what, you know, a lot of us in alternative media have been talking about collaboration and doing citizen reporting, being foregoing the mainstream media and going out there and doing it ourselves. And Pete, I know you're listening, and I'll bring you on in a second, but I'm telling you what, I watched this first video you did, hyperinflation, food crisis, federal deficit, and without a doubt, this is one of the best I've seen, Pete, of do-it-yourself citizen reporting. And I'm going to do everything that I can to make sure that this video goes from 1,792 views to 50,000 views. Matter of fact, I'll send this video to Jeff tonight and ask him to post it on his side as well, because it is that good. I mean, and it is that telling. All right, before I bring Pete on, I want to do what we always do on Thursday evening, which is look at the some statistics. Whew, it's hard when you're a reptilian sometime and you have that forked tongue to get the S's out. But anyway, first-time unemployment claims for this week, 410,000, an increase of 25,000. The moving averages went up 1,750. The real number, the unadjusted data, is 421,000. The state's reporting emergency unemployment benefits. Okay, well, here's a number that this number is really tragic here. I look at this, 127,386 people no longer have a lifeline, no longer have any benefits whatsoever. They're 99ers that are now 100ers in most cases. 3,629,604 people are still drawing emergency tier 2 through 4. This time last year we had 5.7 million on emergency unemployment benefits. You know, it's a decrease of nearly 2 million, and I guess you need to ask yourself the question, in the last year, have those 2 million that were on emergency unemployment benefits, have they become non-persons like the brethren that joined them this week, 127,386, that just went off the rolls? You know, the mainstream media would absolutely have you believe that we are in recovery. The mainstream media would absolutely have you believe that we need the SHIELD Act, the Patriot Act, and every other kind of liberty-stealing piece of legislation that Washington is cranking out as of late. And they would also have you believe that, you know, the reason we have recovery is because we went ahead and bailed out Wall Street, and that is what's leading to a recovery on Main Street. And, you know, the guest coming up next, Pete, is going to tell us, and this video man, it is good. You guys, you've got to see it if you haven't. It tells you the psyche of the American people. Now, Pete's in California, and I know he was in a couple different locations when he shot this in California, but I watched it, and I'm like, this is it, man. This is the reality. This is what the people on the street think. And when I listened to the people interviewed in this, it was like I'm talking to coworkers. I'm talking to people I meet throughout the Northwest. That some of them are getting it, but for the vast majority of them just regurgitate what they hear on the nightly news. So without further ado, hopefully I'm still on the air. Pete, are you there?
I am indeed.
Hey man, outstanding job on that video. As a matter of fact, I was while the guy was warning you that the Rinse Network is not responsible for what you and I are about to utter tonight, I was just finishing up that first one you did, and I'm not kidding. I'm not trying to pump you up here. That's the best citizen reporting video that I've seen on YouTube. Period. I mean, everybody gave a lot of attention to the one where the guy's out there, showing the gold coin, and I'll sell it to you for $50. But that was great. It just showed people weren't really in tune with gold and silver. But this one actually, this is actual reporting. This is the information I want. This is what my fellow citizen is believing. And my hat's off to you. It was a great job, and I'm excited for what you're doing.
Well, thanks a lot, Charlie. This is something, and I got to give a shout out. I think he's probably listening right now, to cameraman Mike. He's the guy that really made this whole thing possible because he's got the equipment and video editing skills to really make these things what they are. But like you and I were talking earlier, I'm sick of seeing pundits and experts that all live in the Hamptons just chatting about us, our opinions, and what we think. And I thought, what better way than to go bring a camera and just catch people off guard. Ask them about this stuff. And you do see, some people, it's like turning on CNN. You can tell right off the bat that whatever programming they saw on their news network is what they're telling me. But there are people that get it, and that was really encouraging, especially a lot of the younger people, because I think that they're not so brainwashed into society as it's been. And we want this real. Well, I was just going to add, we want this to be, basically driven by the people. What do you guys want to hear about? I know it's on the news, but what do the people want to hear about? And we'll go out and get the opinions of the people on those subjects.
Well, and the idea, I don't know if you're going to get into more confrontational, like speaking to. You're interviewing people on the street, right? You're asking them, and we'll get into the topics you covered. We'll try to hit them all in this hour. And if you guys are listening, because I've received a few comments about not being able to get through. If you're trying to call in and you can't get through, go ahead and let me know in the chat room. We'll take calls anytime, 877-342-6673. I open it up at the bottom of the, before we go into our break, I open it up for callers to come on there. But if you want to call in now, you sure can. If you can't, put it in the chat so I know. But I want to try to get all these topics you hit in that video covered. But that was one thing that I noticed, Pete, when you were out there. Well, first of all, I imagined you in some city in California being a little bit confrontational to some local city official who, recently we just had the case where the city planners were making $700,000-800,000 a year, voting themselves all kinds of pay increases, and I just saw Pete down there, with that microphone in their face, asking what's up. I hope you get into a little bit of that kind of reporting as well. But if you just keep doing what you're doing, at least it tells us what the mainstream media effect has been on our fellow citizens. And I was absolutely expecting, I was encouraged in some ways. Like you said, the youth. You had a few guys you were interviewing there. They got it. I mean, they absolutely got it. They understood that there is no recovery, that, double dip, call it whatever you want to call it, it's going to get a lot worse. The one dude is even talking about growing his own food and taking care of himself, and the idea of a consumer-based economy is dead, and if you don't think it is, you're living in a fantasy. So I was encouraged because, guys like me and Warren, who's on the show every Monday, we've been critical of the youth in this nation. And when I say youth, I mean, 40 under, who just being wrapped up in their own deal and not paying attention to what's going on. And we see the youth in other nations pushing back. But your piece showed something a little different than that, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. And there's even one guy on there that, started talking about the Federal Reserve conspiracy, and
right.
I just thought, wow, I thought this was just, a couple of kooks on the internet, me and Charlie, screaming at ourselves in an empty room, but there are people out there that actually get this stuff. And I do just want to preface this with that's in Marin County, which I think is like the third per capita richest county in the nation. So, just putting that veil on it, we're going to get down into the nitty-gritty and hit some, harder hit areas and see what they have to say on that as well. But it was very encouraging, especially on the topics. I was even surprised that as many people knew what I was talking about on some of the things, that people actually care about this stuff.
Yeah, and I was too, to be honest with you. The first person that came on there gave some kind of canned answer that you would expect. I think the first topic you had, and let's just get into it, it was hyperinflation. Explain your question you asked, and then we'll get into some of the responses.
Well, there was a generic question. I asked a group of people, and I asked the same question over and over, and I said, given that the Federal Reserve is printing about $1 out of every dollar that it's spending currently, what do you think the chances of hyperinflation are happening in the U.S.? And, there's the Main Street media people that I'm not really going to speak on them because they just say, oh, it's very unlikely, and they start talking all the talking points of the news network. But, like the young girl, she said, yeah, I think it's pretty likely. Two other younger people, they said the same thing, and then there was an older guy with kind of messed up hair, and he said with definity, yeah, 2 years. He's like, 2 years is about what you got, and we're going hyperinflationary. So it's encouraging because you don't hear much about hyperinflation on the media. It's just inflation and costs are rising slightly, not this tidal wave that's about to crash on this nation and catch everyone off guard.
Right, and it seemed like, and that's funny because I noticed that old scruffy guy, he looked like some guys you might see at the early on Tea Party rallies. The guy that is not going to get much traction, and, people are going to think he's kind of a kook. So it wasn't that surprising when he was understanding what was going on. But when you had the college age girls you were interviewing and the couple guys that were in their 20s or early 30s, and they all had a grasp of a reality. So I think there is hope that the youth is not just tuned into pop culture media and pop culture icons and not paying attention to what's going on around them. And that really shouldn't be a surprise, Pete, because we do know that 80% of the kids graduating from college are ending up moving back in with mom and dad because they can't find a job. So I hold out some hope that, by evidence of your video, that the younger generation will be the one that finally, if out of no other reason, sheer boredom, are going to be out in the streets saying enough is enough because they understand what's coming. I mean, at least your video, in my estimation, showed that the majority of the people that were younger in your video got what was going on.
Yeah, and I've got a theory about that, and it's, the job market is really bad right now. But also, I think that a lot of younger people are getting their information from the Internet, where it's not so censored and geared towards that mainstream genre. And then the other part of that is the older people will just generically say the baby boomers, and this isn't, not a blanket phrase for all of them. But if you think about it, they were born in the beginning of prosperity after World War II, and it's been nothing but prosperity with a few mild recessions, all the way through. So that's all they know, and you hear stories about riots in other places, but that never happens here, so that's not a possibility to them. But it is very encouraging because, when revolution, I'll use that as a broad term, happens anywhere, in ideas or government or anything. I mean, it is something that's usually started by younger people, and it's encouraging that younger people see the problems that we face in this current situation. Well,
it's unfortunate because, Pete, I think you're in your early 30s, so you're you're 8 or 10 years younger than I am. But what's truly unfortunate is I've had a period of my life where I could build a career. Certainly I'm concerned about the future. However, guys in your generation and younger, man, they're looking at, you better look at what's going on in Egypt. You better look at what's going on in Tunisia, because it's going to come here. I see no way around it. And that's one thing that I thought was, one thing your video, I think, showed to me was there is a bit of hubris left in the American psyche. There was a guy after guy after gal after gal who said, this food problem, it isn't going to happen here. We got our supply chains worked out. And that, to me, is going to be a terrifying event for those people. I've said in my videos for 2 years, mentally you better prepare for what's coming, because that's going to be the hardest reality you have to deal with is your whole world is turned upside down. That's going to be harder than actually going out and trying to scrape out an existence in the new economy, whatever it may look like. But just the reality of, 2 years ago I was living high on the hog, and now I'm trying to find a hog so I can feed my family. There's a lot of people in our country that think it cannot happen here. What we see happening in Egypt, what we see happening in Europe, can't happen here because we're in the United States of America and we got our supply chain figured out. And they could be in for a very rude awakening.
Yeah. And the older couple was one that I really enjoyed talking to. The guy contradicts himself. When I started asking about this stuff, he's talking recovery, and I asked him about silver, and he said, I have a friend that made a ton of money, but I hear that it's very risky. And then I asked him about the stock market. He said, that's great. I'm a big stock guy. I own one stock.
One stock, yeah.
We
joke about it. You and I are joking about it, and I'm sure the room's, chuckling about it. But in reality, that is quintessential mainstream media propaganda brainstorming right there. He's got a microphone in his face, so there's obvious tension, in his voice and in his thought process. Most people don't know what to do when they have a microphone shoved in their mouth, so they don't want to look like an idiot, so they're going to say what they've been trained to say, which is, it's a good thing, the stock market. I think that indicates recovery. I own one stock. What do you think about gold and silver? A buddy of mine made a bunch, but it's risky. It could go down, too, I was waiting for the follow-up. Well, do you realize the Dow Jones is right where it was 10 years ago? Do you realize it fell in the matter of 100 days down to the 6,000 level, half of what it is right now? And with one word from one of the Wall Street gangster banksters, it will be right there again. That would have been an awesome follow-up question, because he'd have probably just thought you were nuts and walked away.
Yeah, that was our trial run, so we're trying to just get the hang of it. There was actually another guy on there that, I asked him, what about the people on food stamps? And he says, I would just say that the recovery has happened for people that have 401ks, and if you don't, then the recovery hasn't happened for you yet. Just like, what an answer to say. So you recovered, so the nation recovered, but all those people, they're just statistics, I guess, and they'll have to deal with that later on down the road.
Yeah, and that is one thing that is troubling, but it isn't unexpected. If you listen to talk radio, if you listen to the call-in shows, everybody has their example that they can give you. My uncle did this, I did that. You should do what my grandpappy said to do, and everything would be all right. The country wouldn't be in this pickle if they'd have just done what I had done. And that's anecdotal. People don't look at the overview. Now, the older couple certainly didn't look at the overview. The guy who said that about, it's recovering for some. If you don't have a job, you're still in recession. But the majority of the people in the country don't want to think outside their own sphere of reality. So the idea that doing everything right, I could sit here, be 100% debt-free, own my home, have answer to nobody, have saved enough money that I don't have to go to work anymore. None of that's true, by the way, but I'm just saying in a perfect world. And I'm still living in a country that is destroying my wealth. it's destroying my wealth, it's destroying my liberty, it's destroying my freedom. And until we get people looking at the big picture, I don't think anything is going to change. People are too, I guess, in a way, selfish. Wouldn't you say, Pete?
Yeah, well, I think so. I think it's people really consider themselves and their social group as kind of their bubble, and the rest of the world just does whatever it does. Like if I were a movie star in Filthy Rich, Charlie, I don't know if I'd be worried about collapse too much, because it hasn't happened to me yet. And going back to those old people, I said, "Do you know anyone that's affected?" And they said, "No, not really." And then the lady, the gentleman's wife, she goes, "Oh, well, the wine industry, apparently there are 150 applicants for every job. So there are those people. But other than that, no, we've been unaffected." That's
I know a lot. They said
amazing.
It was, I know a lot of people looking for a job.
But
other
than that,
really
completely unaffected.
Well, I think I want to get into a few other topics too, and we will after the break. Austerity, you asked that question, recovery, and food shortage. So I want to make sure we try to cover all of them if we can. If you have questions for Pete, if you have ideas for Pete for him doing on the street reporting, 877-342-6673. We're going to try to cover these other topics and your questions and calls. On the backside of our one and only break, we'll be right back with Pete and more Wide Awake Radio right after this. All right, guys. Welcome back to Wide Awake Radio. I have Pete formerly, well, I hate to say formerly, you're not gone. Pete from PD Lumina, but his new venture, his new channel is A Visual Record. That is the channel on YouTube. Please, everybody, go subscribe to it, because if the first couple videos that have come out are any indication, then I think it's going to be a very, very useful, informative channel. Pete, I'm going to open it up to calls and questions, and so we're going to look for suggestions that you'd like to see covered that you just don't see in the mainstream media. Now, if you have questions that you want Pete to get out there and ask, call us and give us them. If you have ideas for what you'd like to see him and his, you still have the cameraman on board. Is that correct, Pete?
Oh yeah. Cameraman Mike is eager to go.
All right. Well, so let's get some ideas. You can drop them into the chat. We have 108 or 9 people in there, so it's flowing kind of fast. If you really want to get your question to Pete or your suggestion to Pete, call in 877-342-6673, and that will guarantee that your idea will be heard. And when Pete goes out there next, he will take your suggestion and hopefully produce another quality piece of work. So before I get into these other questions and some predictions for what you think's coming down the road, what do you have in the works? Are you going out and getting another mini documentary made?
Oh yeah. We're going to cover basically current events. So we're going to cover what's going on in the Middle East and the implications. We might do a little bit of financial stuff, go down the financial district of the city, see if we can get some banksters on camera. But mainly I want it to be driven by you guys, because that's what it's all about. You guys are the viewers. I want you to see the content. The one thing that I'm not going to get into, and I really don't want to touch, is the really deep conspiracy. Like someone asked me if we do a 9/11 inside job, and that's. I don't want to be Alex Jones. I want to stay more on economic and the collapse and everything that's been going on.
Yeah, and frankly, unless you have some income rolling in from it, taking on bigger subjects like that would be difficult at best. I like the idea of showing people that in some cases they're not alone if they feel like there's something going on. Like I said, I watched the video and I was excited, Pete, because there's more people out there that think the way we do than we think there are. I come on here a lot and tell people of how the majority of the people in the country, 54%, that's another stat I say over and over again, of the average Americans do not believe the mainstream media anymore. And this is absolute proof of that, because you had about half the people there that, at least if they weren't fully awake, they had an idea that things are just not right. They knew that there's no recovery here. The TV keeps telling us there is, but I don't know what they're smoking. But we're not in recovery. I do want to get to another topic in there, austerity. Now, I wrote this down because I was working on some paperwork, and I heard this. You asked the lady a question about austerity, or about the debt, perhaps it was, the national debt. And I wrote austerity because her answer is the answer that absolutely just causes the hair on the back of my neck to stand up, which is, we all just need to realize that we have to suck it up, and we all have to take a hit, and we all have to do the best with what we have, because that is a absolute, slaughterhouse propaganda sheeple mentality. And it's infuriating to me that mentality is even out there, because it means we're giving up. It means that we accept the idea, the notion that Wall Street created all this, Wall Street and our politicians created all the problems we have right now in this country and around the world, and we all just need to suck it up and take our medicine. But in reality, the people that need to take their medicine are not even, they're not losing one iota of lifestyle. In fact, they're richer than they've ever been. But I've said for quite some time that austerity is coming into vogue in 2011, and you're going to be angry because you're going to have a coworker or a family member tell you, well, we just need to do this because we all got us into this situation we're in, so we all have to get out of it together. Did it strike you that way when you were doing this interview?
Yeah, that. I mean, it's basically what that lady was saying. Whoever needs to cut, you go ahead and cut. As long as it doesn't affect me. Well, what she's talking about is what's going on in Wisconsin today, Charlie, which is people are going to flip, and it's starting as peaceful. But when you start taking this stuff away, the entitlement, and it's rightly, we got to take it away. It's unsustainable. It's like if there's no food on the table, that's a big problem. But you can't just solve it by manifesting food. You have to go out and do something to make it happen. And That's going to be what I think is really going to start tearing this country apart. Because one way or the other, either the currency is going to crash or massive austerity and the people are going to flip. Either way, it doesn't end well. But people that say that just blanket thing, I don't know how old that lady is, but it's okay. Well, what if we take away, any tax breaks you have? We'll take away your Medicaid and Social Security. She would flip. She would lose it. But she can say that just because she knows that that's not going to happen. That's not going to be a possibility. Just cut someone else's benefits, not mine. And that attitude is exactly what got us here. Starting way back with FDR and the New Deal. If you want to go back far enough. That's exactly right. The attitude of I'm okay. The con is we can spend money that we don't have. I mean, it really ramped up under the Great Society. It really ramped up under Nixon closing the gold window, and there's no accountability. I mean, we can print money out of thin air. We can pay for everything with Federal Reserve notes and never have to ask the citizenry of a nation to pay for it in increased taxes or increased spending to wage wars around the world. And Wall Street loves it because they're printing money and they're getting all this money without any pain to the citizens of a country. And yet here we are now. We're about to pay the piper. No pun intended, Pete. Pied Piper. I don't know. Well, anyway, we're about to pay the. On one hand, I was just going to say that. On one hand, they're telling the citizenry of this country that, hey, you need to be austere, because we have this big problem. On the other hand, they're giving money to Europe, the IMF, to all these foreign aid to countries, the banks, like you mentioned. It's ludicrous. It's absolutely insane. And the people of this country are going to be caught way off guard when all of a sudden, like California out here, we did that IOU scam thing that they do. Well, that's coming around again, but, you know, these IOUs might not even get paid this time. You know, so when these things happen, it's all of a sudden you just went and worked, if you're a California employee, for a full work week, and you get a piece of paper that you can't cash for anything. I mean that's what's going to come, and it's coming at every state, every county, within this nation, and I don't know, it's going to get real tough on people, and I don't think when a lady makes a blanket statement that just says, oh, we all just need to cut and do with less, I don't think she understands what that's going to make her neighborhood look like.
Well, I mean, even if we don't cut, even if we just let things run out like the 99ers, like when I opened the show, 130,000 people this week fell off the unemployment rolls. You know, some of those people have kids. Every one of those people that has kids is going to do whatever it takes to feed their kid. Now, it happens to be next door to that lady or in the same town as that lady. They're not going to give a rip if she has or has not, or is kind or is not kind. You know, they're going to take what they need in order to take care of their own. And you know, we don't even have a concept of what that looks like. I don't think yet. I'm sure I'm not sure. I know there's pockets around the country that crime is skyrocketing, especially in the Midwest, and especially in parts of California. But you know, when it hits home is going to be the big shockwave to a lot of these folks. All right, let's get to the national debt, because that is kind of in line with that. The response you got when you asked the question, do you think we'll be able to pay it back? That was very interesting to me, because most people realize it's game over, man. We can't pay this thing back. I think one guy said, well, we've done it before, so most assuredly we'll do it again. My record's good. My business is good because everybody's selling their records. It cracked me up. I'm sorry, Pete. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, that was encouraging too, because you know, people that go bankrupt, it's not like they don't know that they're going bankrupt up until the day they file the paperwork. I mean, they often know years before that, you know, I have unsustainable debt, but you know what? I'm just going to go as long as I can because it's been okay so far, and that's where we're going. And I think people understand the concept, but I don't think they understand the consequences, and that's something that worries me a little bit, because it's like, oh yeah, I know that nation's going to go bankrupt. That stinks, doesn't it? But what that means is you're going to see what's going on in Egypt, and this attitude. And I'm going to draw a comparison here. You know, all the reporters that went over to Egypt to, you know, go take a look at the revolution that's going on. They all got the crap kicked out of them, and they were interviewing these guys. And they said, I just can't believe it that you would do this to the press. This is absolute. I mean, what are you doing? You're walking into a war zone. Recognize it for what it is. And that's the cluelessness. They think that they're invincible, that this is not going to affect them. It's going to affect you on every level of your life.
Well, it's part of the conditioning, you know. And I think you're, what's his name on CNN? He got
Anderson Cooper.
He got throttled a little bit, but you know, you're in the middle. You're in the middle of a protest. These people are tired of an oppressive government. Part of the problem is that our government is giving $1.5 billion a year to the military of this dictator. And Anderson Cooper's out there like, you know, this is another peaceful velvet color revolution. And, oh, look at this. Isn't democracy grand?
Well, here's an interesting story I heard, Charlie. This had me just absolutely cracking up. It's not funny, but it's funny to kind of have a context. You know, the Egyptians, when they were originally trying to put the riots down, the police were out using tear gas and all this. You know, some of the people were asking, they're like, we don't like you Americans. And they said, well, why not? And one of the guys said, the tear gas canisters that our police forces are throwing at us say made in America. You know, right. Why do you think that we don't like you? I thought that was just absolutely amazing. It's like, yeah, we love you Americans. Thanks for sending over your tear gas and your weapons and all this oppression that they've been using on us for 30 years.
Yeah, and it's, you know, again, it's hubris, but it's part of the mainstream media complex. You know, I don't even know, you know, how deep the knowledge base is in mainstream media. Obviously, there's journalists out there that think they're reporting the truth, even though the handlers are the one that are sculpting the news that's going to be reported. But I think a lot of times they believe that what they're reporting is to be the truth. They believe that we're having a wonderful democracy blossoming in Afghanistan and Iraq, and purple finger in the ink type of thing, and they think that this is gentle, and this is how the democracy spreads around the world. But in reality, somebody should have told Anderson that a corrupt government has siphoned off the wealth of a nation, and you have millions of people who are starving to death. You might not want to step in the middle of it when a lot of them have, Uncle Sam they thank for the problems that they have in their country. But, that is obviously not the case. So we saw Anderson Cooper hunkered down in an undisclosed location while the riots went on. So, and that's one thing I wanted to make a suggestion for you for my 2 cents. I would truly like to have you go out and do something on a geopolitical level, just to try to get a grasp of what the people know, what their knowledge level is of what's going on around the globe. Because I think that would be shocking, But who knows? I was surprised by this one, the amount of people who were, in the know, and maybe the citizens would surprise me by knowing that these are all connected.
Yeah, well, that's actually our next video, because we're still taking suggestions, and that's going to be the next one. Conflicts around the world and what it means, what's your understanding, and if you think it's going to affect us in any way. And because I'll tell you, that's something that's happening right now. Economics aside, I think Bahrain just went crazy. That's where our Fifth Fleet is stationed. That whole area, they're just going nuts over there. So, that is a good topic. That's one that we're definitely going to hit. And, I was talking to my cameraman, and as soon as the what hits the fan here, we're going to go out and try to get footage of it, and, get why the people are mad, what they're doing, and get right in the middle of it. So, should be interesting.
All right. What do you have any other ideas? Because I've thought of I'm sitting here, I'm getting all these ideas, and I realize how much more, how much work that 10-minute video must have been. Actually, it was a little longer than that, but I'm sure it was hours and hours and hours of work and editing. So, but I had another idea, Pete. Let me fill your plate here.
Sure.
Some kind of soft asking of the prep level of folks. Are people not running out there saying, did you get all your 223 ammo and 9 months worth of MREs? But are people listening with in one ear to what the mainstream reports, and then when the TV's off, they go ahead and stock some extra food. And in this case, they might be following the advice of people like Glenn Beck, even though I truly think he's in it for the money. I think his own statements prove that, and I think he's a neocon. He does tell people, hey, when you go buy canned goods, you better pick up another one. So I want to see if people are out there doing that. And I truly hope they are, because that means if they are, I don't have to worry about them knocking on your door, Pete.
Yeah, no, well, that's a great topic to interject. We'll get as many as we can. Like you said, it is work. That one video took us probably 2 solid 8-hour days just to get the footage as well as editing. So it's not as easy as just donning a camera and slamming it into YouTube like we do on our Talking Head videos. But we're going to get as many as we can, and I want every single suggestion out there, because there's probably stuff that I haven't thought about, that's not even in my field of view, that's important. Getting out there and in the thick of it, definitely.
All right. Well, I love the channel. I love the concept. I think I received an email today from Christopher Green. He's going to be on Tuesday. He wants to do a lot more collaboration, and I spoke to you about that, Pete, off air. And I've been talking about it on the show. I have banners up on my site for the Intel Hub and for Activist Post and theeconomiccollapse.com, the Indian American Dream. This is where news is going to come from. I truly believe that alternative media is going to, help a lot of people, and it could actually save a lot of lives if we're together and we're getting a consistent message out there, which is this has got to stop. These criminals have to be perp walked, and these people have to be held accountable for what they've done to this nation and to the world. In fact, Pete, today I got an email from Russia Today. They wanted me to come on tomorrow and speak to the Patriot Act being reauthorized by the House, and also the connection between Egypt and the financial shenanigans that happen here in this country, and do I think there is a connection? But it just goes, if an organization like Russia Today is contacting people like me to come on, that means alternative media is having an effect. And there are more mainstream or larger news outlets that are interested in what the people are saying. And you spoke at the beginning of the show about, or in that video even, or maybe it was when we were talking before the program, you spoke to the fact that you have all these mainstream outlets that are basically interviewing each other. Fox News hires a boardroom full of experts, and whenever the topic comes out, they wheel out somebody, and they give them their paycheck, and then say, give us the neocon point of view. And if it's on MSNBC or CNBC or whatever, they wheel out the whatever lefty they have on payroll, and they give us their point of view. But none of it's news. All it is a pomp and circumstance, and it's nothing but a scam. So I think what you're doing. Go ahead.
Let alone the fact that it's not news, and this is something I'm passionate about, and this really ticks me off, is when you get someone like, we'll use Fox for example, and Bill O'Reilly, whatever, he's real big and top ratings. And he gets on every night and he says, well, what the American people want and what the American people need. And he talks in these things like he's representing us. And I'm just looking at this guy saying, I don't believe one word that's coming out of your mouth, because you don't mix with the American people. You have John Stoffel on, you interview him, he goes on your show. Geraldo comes on and they go back and forth. And everyone's talking about what's best for the American people and what we really need. And the American people have been loud in terms of the actual civilian population, but they haven't had a voice. Everyone's bitching at each other about it. So, we need to get it out, at least as long as we still have free internet,
Yeah, and I could not agree with you more. It is all the mainstream cable networks are, and I guess they're all cable networks now. I don't think anybody's got rabbit ears out there, but all of them are just, they interview each other and they give you this fake left, right, red state or red team, blue team jargon, and none of it's news. And it isn't working. It's amazing, Pete, when in your piece that you did. And there's a lot of comments coming in right now about the Russia Today thing. I won't be on the program tomorrow. I cannot make it. The producer and I email back and forth, and it's just an absolute impossibility. But I might be here coming up later this month, so I'll keep you guys posted for sure on that. But the idea of guys like you, Pete, going out there and doing that is going to catch fire in this country, especially when somebody does it who's as eloquent as you are and as even-tempered as you are. And I'm going to be honest with you, Pete. I watched a video where you put a .357 Magnum in that camera, and I saw the hollow points in the chamber, and I'm like, okay, all right, this is going to be interesting. I want to see if Pete goes crazy on some people that repeat some mainstream propaganda to him, but it was right on the money. I think you did an absolutely outstanding job, and I commend you, and I hope you keep it up.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the main thing is we're trying to hit it. I obviously have a bias, but I'm trying to be non-biased and just let the people kind of speak their word, because everyone knows where I stand, and I'll give my views, and I'll continue to do that. But I'm really curious as well, because I'm looking around, and I made a video on the PD Illumina channel today, and it's like, look, you got taco shop on the corner, nobody's in, it's getting ready to close. I run around, I talk to people all the time. Print shops in my local downtown area, just everything is shutting down. And, the stock market, of course, it's not reflected in the stock market because, the taqueria on the corner doesn't have a stock. It's just owned by, a couple people.
Right.
But this economy, it's grinding to a halt right in front of us. And I think that people are really understanding, and it's got to be confusing, because I know before I was really into this stuff, if you watch these people tell you how everything's always getting better and things are so great in this country, but you look around and you see it and you don't feel it. And, when it's just an average guy coming up to you on the street with the camera asking you how you feel, I think that, hopefully you're going to get the truth, assuming that you're not brainwashed by the media. And that's what we're going for.
Well, my hope is this, Pete.
Huh?
My hope is this, that you continue doing your videos and more collaboration happens in the alternative media sphere, and it is paid attention to more by mainstream media. Now, I know a lot of people think that's, they want to keep the mainstream media out, and even some people said, like Russia Today still has an agenda. Well, everybody has an agenda. If Bill O'Reilly called me up and asked me to come on his show, I'd do it in a heartbeat, because I know I would get out there and I know what I would say. I'm going to speak my heart. I'm going to speak the truth as I see it. And I don't care what he says, about me after I'm off the air or whatever, but I know that more people can see it. So I don't care what the media outlet that is putting Pete's videos out. I'm hoping that somebody picks it up and runs with it. I'm hoping it goes ultra viral, and I'm hoping that somebody does call you from from New York studio asking you to come on and talk about your motivations, because then you can get that message out to more and more people. So keep up the fight and keep up what you're doing. And I'm hoping, can you give us an idea how often do you plan on doing a regular report? Is it going to be, and I like that idea, and I'll tell you why. Pete, I'm serious. I'm not trying to, I don't sugarcoat it, man, and I don't kiss up to people at all, ever. I would honest to God, watch your video if it was, if I knew it was coming out every Thursday at 5 o'clock, I would be there waiting for it, because I think it's important, and I want to know what real people think about situations going on in this country and this world. So do you have before we run out of time, do you have any intentions of making it a regular broadcast?
We want to try to, being that it's really labor and time intensive, I am going to try to at least make enough off the ad revenue to support the project, and assuming that happens, we will keep going, and we'll be the voice for the people, from the people, definitely.
Absolutely. Pete, I'm going to put a link up on wideawakenews.com to your new channel, a visual record. You have a forum every time a video comes out. If you do it once a month, that's outstanding. Every time it comes out, you have a forum to come on here and talk about it, and I'll do everything I can to help promote it, because I think it is that important. So, Pete, thank you very much. Keep up the good work. I'll get you on again as soon as you'd like to come on and talk about your next project. The channel is All right, thanks, Pete. The channel is A Visual Record on YouTube. I will get a link up on wideawakenews.com. Check his stuff out. Stay tuned, because Jeff Rintz is coming up next. We'll see you tomorrow night. Open Topic Friday. Everybody have a great night.
Scared and angry, like, what did he say?